This has got to be very common with Willys trucks and wagons where you've got a glove box, but the liner is shot. We're going to make a new one today. Okay, this is a factory glove box, and the first thing you'll notice is it's just made out of kind of a cardboard material. It's just made of several panels that are stapled together. This one came out of a parts truck that I was hoping I'd be able to use, but it's just too far gone to make any use of it. But it's a really good pattern to make a new one, so I know the shape I'm looking for. And yeah, this one, I think some mice got in and must have chewed that up. But anyway, this gives me an idea of what I need to build. So here's what I was thinking for materials. I could go with sheet metal and make a box out of sheet metal. I could go with plastic. That would require that it had some plastic that's kind of close to this shape. And the more I looked at this shape, I thought maybe I've got something that I can work with in plastic. Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe it when I found this tub up on my shelf. The shape is almost identical to the glove box, even though it's a little bit wider. So I think with a small modification, this is going to work out just perfect. Okay, I've got the first part cut out. I just used my jigsaw and it worked pretty well. Now I need to narrow this thing up. So I took a measure kind of at the bottom point here to figure out what the width was. And then I measured in here and marked some lines so now I can cut this apart and bring it together. Okay, so I got my two pieces cut. I'm going to bring them together here just so you can see what they look like. Now this looks like it's got the same shape that I'm looking for. Now I got to figure out how to join these. And I think what I'm going to do is start by plastic welding these. And it's a pretty simple process. We'll see how well I can do it here to get it nice and straight. Now there are some similarities between plastic welding and regular welding. And if this was sheet metal, I'd first start by clamping these together and then tacking them just to get them started so they don't move around. Since I can't use magnetic clamps and I really want this thing flat on the table, I'll just use a little bit of painter's tape instead and get it stuck together how I want it. All right, now it's time to weld. I'm just using an old wood burner, and then I just took a screw and flattened out the end. You can buy these specifically plastic welders on Amazon for, I don't know, between $20 and $40. Some pretty nice ones, but I've always just used this and it seems to work pretty well for me. So what I'm doing right here is just kind of melting a few spots so I can take the tape off and then just do a seam the whole way. I think we'll call that good for starters. Let it cool and take the tape off and see how it holds up. Yeah, it's already cooled off. Let's see how we did. Not bad. Now I can run the whole length. I like to just kind of keep this thing on the move so I don't go right through. This is pretty thin plastic, but it seems to be doing the job pretty well. All we're doing is just kind of melting the plastic around here back together. Okay, that's a start. Pretty good. Now I'm going to do the other side as well, just so it's a little bit stronger. All right, let's see if we can get a focus on this. This is my plastic equivalent of stacking dimes. Probably takes a lot less practice, but I think I've got a nice strong joint there now. Now I've got a wider gap here that I'm having a little trouble with. So just like with regular welding, I can add a little bit of plastic. I just cut a chunk out of this. And we'll just heat that up right over the top and just let it melt right in. There, that works pretty good. All right, we got to start. We've got basically the box put together with the exception of the floor. So let's take it over and just see how it fits in there before we do any more work. So let's check our fit here. Just bring it in from behind. I think the way it's going to go in will be about like this. I don't know if you can see that, but that looks like a real nice fit. I think that's going to work for us. Been doing some experimenting here for the bottom. Now this stuff is pretty thin. So a couple of things. Number one, I was thinking about just bringing it in like that and then trying to plastic weld it, but I think this corner weld just isn't enough to get the job done. So I've been playing around with this, and I think what I'm going to do is put a bend on this, wrap it around, and see if I can get a little more contact on that. So what I've done is made a line on where I want to bend, I'll do it on the back and on the sides. That should give me enough to get this thing locked in. I did a fair amount of sheet metal bending with this apparatus. I don't have a brake, but a couple angle irons clamped together in a big heavy vise got me by. So I'm going to try to do the same thing. I think I actually want to spin this around, go this way. So, nope, I'm going this way. All right, here we go. So I'll line it up right on that black line that I made. That's where I want my bend. Right there. Okay. So we'll clamp it down nice and tight. I don't want it moving. I've got a piece of wood here that I can use to press down. I'm going to warm up this plastic a little bit. Not to the point of melting, but warm enough that it'll be a little bit more flexible. We get both sides. And it's almost going to go on its own here. Okay, let's give it a try. I know it's going to want to spring back a little bit, but this will give us, I think, a pretty good chance of getting a fairly decent bend on this. Try to get a little sharper edge if I can. Just by concentrating that force. All right, let's see how it came out. Okay. Got a little weight right there where I made that bend. But I think that's okay. That should do the job. Okay, we're all bent up here. Now, let's show you how I want to attach this. So we'll bring that in just like that. And I think what I'm going to do is probably use some pop rivets here, just to at least get the corners in, and then I can plastic weld this too. Now, one thing I noticed on this is there's not a lot of strength or structure in this. So I think what I need to do here is get something underneath this just to stiffen this bottom piece up just a little bit. Okay, I got a piece of hardboard. I'm going to fit it in here about like this and just, again, pop rivet this down to this to give it a little more strength and to kind of flatten it out a little. Okay, like saying anything that's worth doing is worth overdoing. So I really loaded it up with these rivets, but I really wanted it kind of flattened out. It's not bad. Now, the next thing, I did leave this last one down here out, and that's because this is the back of the glove box, and it's got a little bracket here that attaches there and supports it against the firewall. So I'm going to wait until I've got this thing all positioned and I know where I need to land this before I drill a hole, and I'll just put a little bolt through there. Okay, next we're going to start attaching the top to the bottom. I've just clamped these in place, and I'll put in a couple of rivets, a couple of pop rivets out on the edge here. Oh, that one's not quite where I want it. Right there. Okay. Now I'm going to rivet these with the finished side on the inside, because this other side, you're not going to see it anyway. Okay. So I've got this all pieced together now. I put my bracket on here. I did a little bit more work in the back there just to kind of stiffen that up. No one's going to see that either. Pre-drilled all the holes for mounting this thing. And it's tight quarters, so I'm just going to go ahead and mount it right now and show you how it turned out. All right, here it is. It's all done. It fits nice. It looks pretty good. It's sturdy. It's going to do the job. Now, one thing I did on this that you may or may not want to do is I used to have like a little brace. It kind of came up and curled around. It looked like a brace that supports a door, but I haven't been able to figure out what it's for, and this door seems to hold up fine. Now, that brace wanted to cut down through here, so I couldn't even close the door with the brace on. So I just took a zip cut and just cut it off. Still works fine, but if you're going to make one of these, just keep that in mind, that if you need to use that brace, you're going to have to probably cut a slot in here so that that can move in and out of there. Now, this was not that tough to do. It didn't really cost me anything. I used materials I had on hand. Now, if this is the kind of work you don't want to do, I have good news. You can buy a reproduction cardboard inner liner, and it's about 50 bucks on the Jeepster, man. And they also sell a plastic version of that that's $45. So it's not that expensive if you don't want to make your own. But it was kind of fun just to see if I could build this and make it work. Now I'm going to put my paperwork in there, and we're done.